grand jury, charges, and someone is broke. Let's get into it. Today we're going to talk about Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell and see where everything is going in this case right now. So first, let's start off with the grand jury. What is a grand jury and how is it actually put together, and what does it actually take part in an actual grand jury? Are there several parts? Is it a trial? Do they hear witnesses? What actually takes place with when a grand jury is put together to hear and decide on actual charges? Well, a grand jury is selected from those who are from within the community, those who are members of a jury, could be called for a jury, part of a jury pool. They select people from a random from the community, and how it works is the DA and only the DA. The defense has no part in an actual grand jury or giving grand jury testimony. The grand jury hears the evidence, and then they decide, yes, there's enough evidence to go forth to file an indictment on these charges itself. The DA, Mr. Wood, in this case, then indicts the defendants in this case, and he presented, the actual formal charges. The defendants were then served where they are currently housed in jail. They were presented the actual formal charges. Now it will not officially become charges that are levied against them until they appear in court, but they have been notified that the grand jury has come down and has indicted them on the charges that they have. That is how a grand jury works. And ladies and gentlemen, please be absolutely sure you understand this. You're going to see so much speculation online and in mainstream media to a point, especially in your court TVs, your news broadcasts, crime-related news stories. You're going to see a lot of speculation on what exactly Mr. Wood presented to the grand jury. But grand juries are secret. Nobody knows who the actual members of the grand jury are. Nobody knows what evidence was actually presented to them. And again, the defense is not part of the actual grand jury. They doesn't get to talk to them, doesn't get to present alternative evidence, nothing. It is a group of people who together decide, yes, there's enough evidence to file these charges, and you should indict on these charges here. But you're going to see a lot of speculation, and people are going to guess, and they're going to speculate, and they're going to outright lie to you when it comes to this case, because it's such a high profile case, and they're trying to clickbait you or draw you in to get your view. Please be aware of that. Nobody knows what the grand jury was presented, and Mr. Wood is not going to tell you. He's not going to tell me. He's not going to tell anybody. He's going to keep that to himself, and the defense then has to figure out what he knows. It's like a chess match. Mr. Woods just pushed that king forward, and now he's got the king out there, but he knows he's got enough pieces protecting it in that game. And it is a giant chess match. So let's look at the charges now that have been levied against Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. Lori Vallow has been indicted on the following charges: one count of first-degree murder for JJ, and one count of first-degree murder against Ty Lee. On top of that, she's also been charged with theft by deception. Yes, this is something that I brought up quite a long time ago, and I told everyone that if they could definitely file federal charges for theft by deception in pertaining to the death benefits and the benefits for dependent children. The moment that her children disappeared and they were not in her care, and she still received Social Security benefits for Ty Lee and for JJ, because we know Charles and Joseph are both gone. The moment she received that money without actually aiding in their actual welfare, she committed a crime. They could have prosecuted this at the federal level, or they could have prosecuted this at the state level. She's going to have an extremely hard time beating that charge alone because they were not with her when she left and went to Hawaii. From the moment that she left them, even if they were alive, ladies and gentlemen, even if they were alive, she could not and she cannot prove that the money was going to their welfare. She's going to have a hard time, even if everything else, if she pays $1 million for the best legal team in the world, which she doesn't have, even if she did, she couldn't beat this charge. It's going to be extremely hard. And what they will most likely do is end up pleading her down on this one charge. But she's going to have a hard time beating it. Chad was charged, indicted on one count of first-degree murder against his former wife, Tammy Daybell. Along with that, he additionally got a theft charge, a fraud charge on top of that, for filing a fraud claim for the insurance money by deception, by filing this claim and not telling the actual truth, basically. He lied about how Tammy died and what was wrong with her. And yes, again, this is something that not only myself brought up, in past videos, but something that a lot of people brought up was Tammy Daybell and Chad Daybell, both of them, had taken a physical shortly before this new policy went into effect. They passed that physical. Everybody knows, if you've been following this case, that Tammy was getting ready to run a marathon. Somebody who is in peak physical condition, planning and preparing for a marathon, doesn't suddenly die in this manner in their sleep. Complain about, hey, I'm not feeling well, and then going to bed the night before and then dying in their sleep. Sure, it happens, but very, very rarely. Now, the stories of pink foam obviously are not true, but there may be something to the actual foam coming from her mouth. Pink, not sure of, but still. He has been charged with first-degree murder. Now, somebody is broke. Let's talk about that. Lori Vallow is broke, ladies and gentlemen. And when Mr. Mean went to Mr. Pryor to seek an additional funding from Chad Daybell, Lori's husband, for the defense of Lori, he was denied. There is no money left to give Lori Vallow, his wife, to aid in her defense. So on Monday of this past week, Mr. Means went into court and filed papers for Lori Vallow to be listed as indigent. An indigent meaning she has no means to pay for her actual defense. At that point, the court had two options. One, give her a public defender, and if she was to be given a public defender, we would have seen a lengthy delay in this case, because that new attorney would have to get up to speed on everything that has taken place from day one in this case. But fortunately for us and for the wheels of justice, they appointed Mr. Means her legal defending attorney, public defender in this case. And unfortunately for Mr. Means, he's going to take a drastic cut in pay. He was being paid $110 an hour for his services up to this point, but now he will get $61.50 an hour. That is the compensation rate in the state of Idaho for a public defender on a major case like this. On top of that, in order for Mr. Means to hire special investigators or witnesses to be in the trial itself, he must submit in writing, not by computer, but in writing to the state, the cost for that, and then they will decide if they will be approved or denied to have special investigators, or witnesses or anything at all. And briefly, I would like to talk about, and then before I get back to this, subpoena that Mark Means filed on Monday against Melanie Gibbs. And it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. If you actually read the entire 5-page subpoena that he filed, he wants phone records, transcripts, meetings, records of her travel, where she stayed, hotel bills. He wants everything going back years, years, ladies and gentlemen. And it's the entire thing, and even by legal scholars and those who are on YouTube who are attorneys who have looked at it. Speaking of, in Scott Reich, and it's been done. The subpoena has been done to do nothing but to harass Melanie Gibbs, who is going to be a state witness, not a witness for the defense, but for the state. It will most likely get squashed, all of it. There is no evidence other than that what we believe at this point that has been factually been proven that she may know. It has been he filed a subpoena just to harass her, to try to get her to give up information. It's a fishing expedition, basically. All right, so back to Lori Vallow and her being broke. Now that she has no money, there's no money to be put on her inmate account for her to buy snacks or anything at all, unless she is able to find a benefactor out there who is willing to put up money for her continual stay and treats and stuff like that while she's in jail. She will have to go by indigent requirements, where they will give her state issued shampoo, bar soap, and alike items, personal hygiene items. She will have to get that, as opposed to getting stuff off of the commissary. Chad, how is Mr. Pryor getting paid? Mr. Pryor has filed a lien against Chad's home and actual farm property to guarantee that Mr. Pryor will continue to be paid the rate that he was billing and is still billing, Chad Daybell in this case. Mr. Pryor is being paid $115 an hour for aiding in the defense of Chad Daybell. And again, the property and home is actually guaranteeing that he will be paid. Lori has no property. She doesn't even own a car. The car that she had before and everything else has been sold off. It was all taken back. The truck that belonged to Charles that she was driving had a loan on it, and she defaulted on that, and it was taken back. She doesn't even have that. She has nothing that could actually be used or sold to guarantee the actual release of her from jail, let alone aid to pay for a defense attorney, a private attorney, which, up until yesterday was Mr. Means. So that is where we are factually on this case. Now, I just wanted to make sure everybody knows how a grand jury works, the charges that have been levied against him. Lori is broke. Chad doesn't want to help her, and Chad wants to. Oh, by the way, Chad wants to move his case away from her and get as far away from Lori at this point as he can. So, is the honeymoon over? I think it is. I think the love affair between these two has run its course. Maybe because the porthole's not working. Maybe Lori's not able to go into the porthole and see Chad whenever she wants, and Chad's not able to show up in her porthole. So at this point, it looks like Lori's on her own, and she's finally going to have to face the charges. JJ would have been 9 years old yesterday. There were several silent vigils in Idaho, and the grandparents celebrated in peace by themselves the passing and the short life of JJ in his 9th birthday. So JJ is in heaven now and smiling down, and now knowing that justice is going to be done for him in this life, that his mother and Chad will both have to pay for what they did. And thank you very much for joining me today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon to be notified when I upload the next video. But you have a great rest of your week and weekend, and I will see you again shortly.